We are live. Spoilers in this video, including for earlier entries. Let's see, what's it currently being listed as? I think just Rambo V, or Rambo 5, Thoughts Film, Last Blood. Now, yes, so spoilers, including for the earlier entries. And it's a long video, but there are time codes in different sections in the description box. Now, yes, my own quote-unquote film critic rating for this is a 7 out of 10, and my personal rating is also a 7 out of 10. There are definitely problems, but I do think that the when you look at the whole of what the film is, it definitely does have some merit. Rambo V, that was the 5th one! Adrian's Revenge! Now, we're gonna jump directly into the first section. Notes taken while watching. So, I have to admit I did not stay through the end credits. So I don't know about any. I kind of assumed there wouldn't be a post-credit scene since they talked about this maybe being the last one. So I did, I saw that the credits ran over like tribute, footage from the first 4. But without end credits, seems like it was basically exactly 90 minutes. So, but yeah, to get to, that's because I put the time on the very first page, since I note what time the movie starts. So anyway, to get back to the actual start of the movie. So we're told that the storm is now Category 2, which could be trouble for Alabama, if the Sharpie is to be believed. And we're told about, some missing hikers, and then, oh, what about that volunteer on horseback, which is, immediately we know that has to be Rambo. And Rambo finds the dead wife, and he tells the guy, I found her, she's dead, you can't, and he refuses. He goes back to see if he can save her. See, I don't think it's necessarily a bad opening. I feel like, I think there's some chance that the collective fan base would all scream as if they had just witnessed an eldritch abomination or something if yet another Rambo sequel opened on Rambo being in a specific place where you maybe don't want to see him or wouldn't expect to find him. Maybe it's some kind of like far away from everybody else place, and someone approaches him and says, here's a thing you could do, might make an interesting movie," and he starts out saying no, but then he comes around and says yes. I really appreciate that we didn't get that again, and it being personal. I mean, it was personal in the third one with the with Troutman being captured, and maybe in the fourth one he did seem to. He does clearly care more about. I'm afraid I've forgotten her name. It's been like when did I rewatch the movie? A week ago maybe or something. But I'm just gonna call her Julie Benz. He did seem to genuinely care about if she got hurt or not. But I really appreciate that, we see him doing a thing that can maybe help some people, and so yeah, he hasn't completely gone away from the from helping people, where yeah, that Not saying that all of the sequels. Let's see. In the third one, was he helping people? He was doing. Let's see. It's the fourth one where he's like capturing snakes and selling them. What was he doing in the third one? I forget. Anyway, I appreciate that they. Yeah, I like that the opening is him, you know, facing the fact that he can't save them all. He works hard to try to save people, but he can't save them all. And I really think that is something I wish. I, I think it would have been. Yes, I think they should have had flashbacks to the dead hikers every so often in the movie. Whenever appropriate. I'm not saying just like every 7 minutes or whatever. And if the yeah, like when he's trying to when he's looking for Gabriella he's going through, he's kicking in doors, every so often if we just briefly flash back to the dead hiker, um, both of them, the couple, the two dead hikers, as if like he's being haunted by the fact he's worried that when he finds Gabriella, she's already going to be dead. Like he was unable to save the female hiker, the one who was a wife, the other female. Yeah, sorry, there's two female hikers, and he couldn't talk the husband out of going. But he tried. He told him, you're not going to be able to save her. Yeah, let me just briefly. Everyone's viewing experience is going to be at least slightly different. I gotta say, personally, I felt like I cared about Gabriella. I wanted her to to be happy with the answer she got from her father. I wanted the early signs that Giselle was trouble. I wanted them to be red herring. There's a. But I'm sorry, when we actually did see her die, and it got to me when we saw the scars, you know, did get me thinking of like Unforgiven with the whole, you know, yeah, the scarring of a woman who is a prostitute, and like the sort of similar, or yeah, sort of something in common for the protagonist and then the scarred. Anyway, that got to me. But when we actually did see her die, I don't know. Again, everybody's experience is different. I just don't feel like the movie did a good job of making that effective. You know, yeah. The let's see. So that was that, and the flashbacks and the rescue mission. I like that this really is. You know, I feel you have got to have Rambo in at least slightly different of a place from last time we saw him, and preferably from in general where we've seen him. And yeah, in this he does, every so often there's trouble. That maybe this is a place that maybe not necessarily a lot of storms, although it could be, but maybe hikers sometimes mess up and like get hurt. Maybe they fall off something or into something or the like, and he's the tracker. He's the one they if yeah, they bring him in just in case, and and that thing of, he's such a great tracker. I liked that we see him he's doing what he's good at in a way that isn't hurting anyone. I like that he's found a way. That's the thing. It's frustrating that the movie isn't a lot better than it is, because there are real, like, rays of light in this thing. Like, you have it really does understand Rambo and try to put him in a, yeah, in a situation. This is not the same Rambo you know it's it's been 11 years, both in real life and in movie continuity. It's been 11 years since we last saw him, and 10 of those years he spent trying to raise this girl as if she were his biological daughter. What was she? Crap. I'm sorry. I forget what they said her. I'm pretty sure they did say what her age was. But anyway, so yeah, basically, I'm just gonna. Maybe she's 18. So he's been raising her since she was 8. That is a long time to spend with someone. And clearly, I mean, she said, how does she explain all the tunnels? Well, I just told them that what was it? You you're a good digger, and you're kind of crazy, something like that. But just, yeah, she says, she tells other people that he's kind of crazy, and he's like, fair enough. That's not the kind of thing, like, she doesn't come off as if she's scared of him at all. And it doesn't come off as him feeling insulted, slighted by the kind of crazy, which, the I mean, I ultimately, in the first movie, it was the physical abuse was probably the stuff that especially set Rambo off. But them saying that he's, just this crazy guy didn't exactly help. That didn't exactly make him not want to, you know. I mean, and that's the thing. He ultimately doesn't do that much violence against people in that entire movie. But yeah. So the anyway. Yeah, that kind of thing could make you want to go into the woods and hide and attack people who try to find you. So yeah. I I don't think I wrote down to know. Yeah, I'm just briefly gonna say I really appreciate how the ending of the first movie really is. He completely, like, it's as if the if the guerrilla tactics that he uses in the movie, if they were like a lake, then he spends, some, at first he just dips a couple of toes back in. Once they start really chasing him, and he starts setting up traps in the forest, he's maybe like thigh deep. And then at the end of the movie, he dives as deep as he can. The end of the movie, he is actually treating this town as if it's a hostile base. He destroys the ammunition and explosives. He takes out the phone lines. Wait, or is it, sorry, electricity, I think. And yeah, just you know, it's just absolutely brilliant. It really feels like it's essentially his version of the, what's it called, the fetal position. He completely, he disappears into this kind of state. And yeah, just anyway, right. So yeah, clearly Gabrielle. I'm just gonna be saying Gabby. I think the affectionate nickname that they use for her as well rolls off the tongue easier. Gabby and Rambo clearly do have a very positive relationship together, and that's that's part of why he is now, yeah, he goes out and helps track when there are people missing. He tries to save people. He puts himself out there. It's not necessarily that there are a lot of things that can hurt him, but he accepts that he might be emotionally hurt when things go wrong. And that's really not something that we've seen from him a lot. He tends to be very closed off. And that's again where the first movie does such a brilliant job, because at the very start of the movie we do see him opening up. He's talking about his buddy on the from the unit, and how, man, he used to be, he's such a big guy, you can't miss him, and all this stuff, and talking about how he's happy to be about to see his buddy again, and then he's told he died. He got cancer from Agent Orange. So, basically, this is another person that not only was destroyed by Vietnam, but was destroyed by the American military actions in Vietnam. That's something the first movie does so brilliantly, is explore. It's not just, or quote unquote, it's not only the other side who can destroy you. The anyway, I'm not talking about the first movie. I'm saying after that, you know, we're told that that was the last member of the unit. Rambo is the only person still alive from that unit, and yeah, once he realizes he's the only one still alive, he, he pretty much complete, completely pulls into himself, and yeah, the so this is a huge change, and it actually, it's the kind of thing where the fact that it took 11 years passed between Rainbow movies coming out actually works. The this would not have been the same at all if they had said, it wouldn't have been a full 10 years if that he spent raising this girl, if it had been, if the movie had come out several years ago. But yeah, I really appreciate, clearly, and also just, yeah, the way he's like, what, take your friends into the tunnels, and Maria's also like, you never let me into those tunnels, and just it yeah, I mean, that is literally, he is opening up his innermost, and not only to Gabby, but also to people she cares about that he doesn't even know. He's not vetting these people. He's trusting that, just, yeah. I really, that's it's a I really, really like a lot about the opening scene, and this thing. Later you have the flashback to it, and you also have, and it leads into Vietnam flashbacks. And I just wish that they would have stayed on that at least a little longer, because they were close, man. They were so close. It starts to that's in the first movie. I mean, yeah, really, in the first movie, it's not necessarily that they were on screen for very long, but it is that it, it's that Rambo was kind of stuck in the, you know, yeah, we only briefly saw the flashback of, them using the knife against him, but he's clearly still in that headspace for several more seconds. It's not like, and in this one, it does kind of feel like, briefly, like briefly, it kind of pulls him out of, but then he's just okay again. I feel like if they had just the way I would have liked if they just had it go on for, doesn't even have to be very long, maybe 5 seconds more, and have the audio just slowly but more or less aggressively crank the volume and maybe cut back to Sly, and he's like, he can't keep it out. He can't stop. He can't control these flashbacks. I feel like that would have been a good, you know, I don't know. I get maybe the idea is that he's no longer having as bad flashbacks because of these 10 years spent. I suppose that's possible, and that is, and I really wish that the character wasn't just, excuse me, primarily, excuse me, there so that essentially essentially Gabby boils down to a woman in a refrigerator. That she's dead so that the protagonist can avenge her, and that's it. She doesn't get to make very many meaningful choices that affect anything plot wise, and the only ones she makes are ones that we, the audience, I mean, I guess maybe if it's the first Rambo movie you watch and you don't know who Rambo is, maybe you're like, I guess maybe this will go well for her. But everybody else is like, come on, man, we know where this is going. This is so, it's really frustrating to sit and watch. And, however, what I was getting to is, as far as I understand, positive interactions with other people and, like, you know interactions that make you feel positive feelings again, those that can have very strong healing effects on people who have, for example, PTSD. If you have, I'm not it's not a cure all, but some mental and emotional problems can be helped by spending a lot of time. And, ultimately, I mean, I don't know that I would be crazy about having my 8-year-old anywhere near the person that we've seen John Rambo be in the first 4 movies, but I mean, it's a movie. It's a piece of fiction. It doesn't have to be completely. And I do really appreciate, Glass also showed that, you know, that it is possible for people who are hurt to heal. And that's really something that there are a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s where mental and emotional problems are treated not as something that happens to a lot of people and that you can deal with and such. No, it's just, oh well, this person's crazy, so they're running around killing people. And, oh, they're crazy, so the only way to deal with it is to kill them or they'll keep killing, and things like that, and it'd be punchlines and such. And now there are at least some movies that say these are things that can be helped, that can be dealt with. It's not easy, but it's possible, and it's important. I hope that at least some of the people who watch this movie take away from it that even someone as broken as Rambo is, he can heal at least somewhat. He can recover from where he was, and a lot of people, they won't necessarily experience it themselves, but someone in their life will have some, yeah, some problems. And again, instead of the 80s 90s kill it with fire approach, it's just like, well, what can we do to try to, yeah, get positive experiences with other people. I guess that, yeah, that was quite the digression. 26 minutes. And we're on page, what, 4? What, 4 of the notes. It's not gonna keep being like this. It's just because it's a very good opening. It really is. I have to admit, I've already, like, okay, it's not difficult to remember the opening of the first movie because it's one of the only times in the entire movie where you get a sense of hope. When you see Rambo, you know, Stallone, when he plays like a friendly giant kind of time, gentle giant, I think is the name for the type. He's very compelling and very sympathetic, and he comes in and he's like, this guy, big guy, we love him. He's the nicest guy, and just I was wondering, where is he? Can I talk to him? And then he's told, cancer ate away at him, and turned him into nothing. By the end he was so light that wife, I want to say his wife, could just lift him off the bed just like nothing. And for the rest of the movie, there's no real hope. There are a couple of, there was a little bit of comic relief. The I think Weekend Warriors or whatever they're called, but it's not. There's not really any hope for the rest of the movie, and the yeah. So anyway, going through the opening scenes. The second one is also very easy to remember. The let's see. He it's the yeah, Rambo's in this, work camp, prison camp thing because he, shot some, yeah, he attacked a civilian area. I don't know why the third one doesn't have him also in any kind of prison, since at the end of the second movie he destroyed military hardware, the computers, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, do we get to win this time? This time it's up to you. And then the third one, I mean, I guess it's when the Colonel Trotman, like, he finds Rambo and talks to him, and Rambo says no. I guess I don't even remember. I guess the fourth one, again, I watched it a week ago. I didn't really think of it as that unmemorable of a movie. Anyway, I guess the first thing we see is Rambo catching snakes. But yeah. Anyway, I think this might be, at least in theory, the best opening to any of the sequels. It really does, yeah. And the you have them brace against the rock and the water, you know. Yeah. And I'm not saying they should have used real water, obviously. And I'm not. It's, yeah. It's CGI. It's decent enough, like, quality CGI. I do feel like maybe it does push it too far as what's credible. That's really my only real issue with the opening scene is the I don't know. I mean, I guess they didn't want it to be quote unquote just them running away from, in this case, water behind them. I don't know. I really appreciate that it's a scene where Rambo he's there to save three civilians. The first one is already dead when he finds her, and the second one refuses to accept that she is dead. So Rambo comes to this situation and he he wants to save all three of them, but he's only able to save one of them, even though another one was alive when he encountered him. And yeah, it's a I could understand maybe people saying that it's too much to keep taking things away from John Rambo. I that's not I don't suppose that's really something I disagree with. They are taking a crazy amount away from him. But I do think it is yeah. And I'm really glad that it doesn't excuse me. When the husband said, "No, I'll go get her," I had a brief flashback to the fourth movie with the whole, you may have thought that this was okay, but it's never okay to use violence. And then later in the movie, he does grab a gun and just that character from the fourth movie. And the whole thing of just, yeah. So I'm glad it wasn't anything like that. Now. But yeah, it's very clear that it hurts him that they died, and he starts walking away, and the one person he did save, it's like, thank you, and like at first he doesn't say anything, and she kind of figures, oh, okay, I'm not gonna get a response. And she starts to like turn away or back up or something. And it's not a huge pause, but there is a pause, a 9 months pregnant pause. And then he does say, "You're welcome." And clearly she did hear that, and she was, it what's the word? Like it is she's glad to have been able to thank him, and she's glad that he heard it and responded to it. And to him himself, it's also like it feels like people haven't thanked him for something like that in a long time. Maybe this was maybe it, yeah, I mean yeah, maybe this is one of the rare times where he is able to save anyone. Maybe usually when he's in this kind of situation, they're all dead before he gets there or something. It's really, man, I wish this was a way better movie than anyway. And yeah, and there's that line. Let me think. It's like excuse me, I need to deal with this thing. There it is. Yeah, he's talking to Maria, and it's I forget the exact lines, but it's something about like the war the war is over or something like that, and he's like it's it's still going on in my head or something like that, and like he can't stop that, he can't turn it off or something like that. Yeah, see, that's where I feel like the flashback, you know, like the flashback I talk about earlier in this video that happens a little later, not really much later, in the tunnels, where he's thinking about the hikers, and then he's thinking about Vietnam. I feel like it should have been longer, and it should have been almost overpowering. I mean, this isn't a movie that's afraid to push the audience into a place where we feel like this is okay, this is too much. That's what the climax, the climax pushes the gruesome violence very, very far, so it's not, that kind of flashback would not have been out of place in this movie. It would just have been one of the, you know, most of the really overpowering stuff in this movie is in the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. And we see that Rambo lives in the tunnel under the farm. That's where he's comfortable. I really felt like that made so much sense. I really, it's such a great, like, because that's what he, yeah, and it's the kind of thing where the other movies, I think it would have made sense if it was in one of the other movies as well. And we get a pan, excuse me, across all the guns, the knives, starting some crap, and rides the horse. And we see him changing bulbs in the tunnels, and there's like this leaky thing, he fixes that. Let's see. Yeah, non-flashback. And I accidentally wrote on the same page more than once. Let's see. Oh, right, and he's like, oh, it's a letter opener. Just, and she's like, I hate to break it to you, but nobody writes letters anymore. And he's like, oh, you can use it to keep away boys. And again, if I recall, I think she outright says, it's okay, you tried. This is the kind of thing, man, I wish that they didn't just end up using her character just, yeah, they fridge her character. Ultimately, it's it's an appealing character, and it's the kind of character you believe that this is someone who could help Rambo, get become more comfortable around other people, because that's how she's like, okay, so you're completely out of touch, but it's okay. You made an effort, and I'm not mad that you got this wrong. That's the kind of thing. It's. I mean, that's part of why in the first movie he snaps, because they don't even try to understand him. They just treat him like like a wild animal that needs to be tamed, basically. And yeah, that's so yeah, and in real life, what helps that kind of situation is when someone is, what's the word, yeah, proper emotional support, and just, yeah. And again, you know it wasn't like funny, but it was slightly amusing the this he's been standing there making the he's making knives. He's a blacksmith. Apparently he's full on like this is this is at the very least the second movie where we've seen him craft like a weapon in that anyway. So yeah, it's like he's trying to be he's trying to make something for her to also maybe something to remember him by because they're going to be far apart when she starts. It was college, right? She was about to start college, something like that. And he got it wrong. It's crazy that something so like I didn't feel like it was corny, but when I think back to it, how was that not corny? And see, this is also where I'm like, okay, so the people who gave this movie a 10 out of 10 online and then said, oh, brutal action, amazing. Are you 100%? Like, I feel like a lot of those people, if they were completely honest with themselves, they'd probably take at least 1 point off for early scenes of cheese. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those. I'm just saying if you're like, I can't wait to see him destroy people, I could better understand that with the fourth one because there's really no cheese. Sorry. The fourth one is not what's the word? It doesn't try to have like cute and happy and upbeat stuff. This one does have stuff like that, and I think it largely works. But the people who went to see this and just wanted to see a bunch of people be brutally murdered, if you gave it a 10, you give it whatever rating you think it deserves. But be honest. Either you think that it shouldn't be a perfect rating, or you do secretly actually like some of this touchy-feely kind of stuff. I'm not judging, I'm just saying, don't, just, be honest about it. It's, and yeah, I noticed that the non-flashback was short, not overpowering, and, excuse me, and he tells her to show her friends the tunnels. I have to say, I really I really thought that the boyfriend would be a way bigger part of this movie. When we first met him, he's like kind of pushy and like she likes him, but it's like it's just calm down now, calm down. What's the word? Heal the just and then he just disappears after almost no screen time. Was it like did they end up not liking the actor or the character and what's in the movie was the only stuff they couldn't edit out or something? It really feels like I thought that he was gonna be part of why she gets in trouble in Mexico. That maybe he gets greedy and gets involved with the wrong people or something, but yeah. And I'm sorry, to me it was kind of funny when they like she's like I'm gonna go to Mexico, and I think it's Rambo who says, why would you want to do that? And it's just like you realize that Mexico is a country, right? She's not like Mexico is a country, and different regions are different states of how dangerous depending on cartel influence and such. She's not like he acts as though Mexico is like the name of like an acid bath or something. Just like, oh, don't do that. It's gonna be horrible and really destructive. Just like at least hear out what she's thinking. She doesn't say, I want to go to this one really dangerous part of Mexico. She just says, I want to go to Mexico. It makes it almost sounds like Rambo thinks that the moment you go across the border into Mexico, like they tackle you to the ground and just stab you with syringes of like the plague and just all different kinds of diseases and drugs and just like, dude, calm down. It's kind of like, several people have pointed out how much this is like Taken. It reminded me of when Liam Neeson in that movie is told she's going to leave America. Like, because America itself is just the safest. Nobody gets hurt in America. No teenage girl in the history of time has gotten badly hurt in America itself. No, it's only when they leave America. And it's such, like, that movie was written and directed and produced by French people. I'm pretty sure even the first one was directed by a French guy. Where they get off making Paris the, like, this den of iniquity. Just, yeah. Is that the term? Anyway. And yeah, the Gabby says, she wants to talk to her real father. Do they call her Gabby because she talks a lot? Or is it just because it's short for Gabrielle? I guess if they decided to call her Gabby as short for Gabrielle, and then they realize she's going to talk a lot, they could call her Gabby Gabby. Excuse me. And Rambo tells her, your father was a bad person. And Maria yells at Gabby, and we have. I was kind of surprised by how much Spanish there is in this movie. Now, every movie I watch has subtitles that translates it into my language, but I have to assume that it was subtitled in the original American version as well, and into English, because certainly there are a lot of people who wouldn't be able to follow all of the. Yeah. Let's see. And Giselle, first, maybe that is a real name, but did they have to choose one that sounds so close to Jezebel? Because I'm pretty sure that's they're trying to make you think of Jezebel, you know. And yeah, first in Spanish, and then not very many moments later, in American, she says, it's cool," and she messes with Gabby a lot, and I kind of feel like it's clearly supposed to be that there's something's not quite right here, and Gabby is in some danger here, and keep having these. I find it really funny that that's what they like. I mean, it actually it feels like this, the scene where the Giselle keeps saying and doing things that make Gabby uncomfortable. It feels like it was written by some recluse who has no idea how people actually talk to each other. Like, it feels like something a conservative white guy in the 60s, in the 1960s, thought of as like, ooh, you gotta be careful if people start talking like this. Because it's like, we do find out she is, she does some truly evil things, and she doesn't actually want to protect Gabby as early on she claims to. But she's basically just razzing her. Like, she's just, like, pulling her leg, busting her chops. Like, the person who wrote the scene, do they not have any interaction with other people at all? Like it really it made me think of like 1960s, just like when you see like I forget what it's called, but I want to say, was it maybe just called I Accuse My Parents? Is this like MST3K did an episode on it, or a thing or something, and it's like, oh, they're to blame for this. I mean, not to say, I mean, they're wonderful people, and it's just like, you couldn't take the full step into just like, the kind of stuff where in the 60s where movies and TV would have these ridiculous idealized versions of family member interactions and such. There, you wouldn't see people razzing each other as Giselle does Gabby. But in real life, that happens all the time. It's supposed to be this, ooh, she's changed. It's been some years, and you don't know who she is anymore. You gotta be careful. But the way that it conveys this to you is to just have her like, I mean, she's basically going like, "Gotcha," or like, "Psych." It's just, it was mind-boggling. Maybe I've just played too much Silent Hill, but for like a second, it looked like Mirror Gabby was not moving quite as fast as normal Gabby when she's like, about, she's like knocking on the door, ringing the doorbell or something right outside of her father's, at that door of her father's place, and it seems like it moved just a little bit slower, but yeah, probably too much Silent. There's no such thing as too much Silent Hill. So much Silent Hill that's what it made me think. And she asks, "Why did you leave us?" And you know, I can't. I have to appreciate Kraft. When they first start talking, he's bathed in warm light from the apartment building, same as his new wife was. When he starts telling her how he really feels about her and her mother, he steps outside of the warm, pleasant lighting and into this icy blue lighting, and then he starts saying these awful things. It's it's not really subtle, but I appreciate it. There are some directors who would have shot both with the same lighting and been like, "What? I don't see a difference." But yeah, it's and it would have been easy to just have it in the blue lighting for the entire scene, but it wouldn't have been as effective. And they go clubbing, supposedly to cheer up Gabby, and the guy drugs her drink. I think that it was a bit overdone, but again, I can't. It's good craft. The technical aspect of just, you see the putting, like, I forget, did he crack open a pill and put, I don't remember exactly, but just the way we see it in the drink, it just, I mean, it doesn't look as much like, I mean, it's basically like, it's slowly, it's or slowly, it's spreading through the thing. It looks like a disease or something. Like, it looks like a virus that's taking over the glass of whatever her drink is. It's over dramatic, but it's effective. And excuse me. And we're introduced to the two. I don't remember their names. let's see. So there's the guy who won't get a seat at the table, and there's the other guy. You know what? Other guy, henceforth, final kill guy. Because he's the final one that Rambo kills. Now the other one, headless. Headless. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with headless. So final kill guy and headless get into like an argument, and final kill guy is like, just shut up and get away from here, and just you're making us look like idiots. At the time, I seriously thought he was supposed to be a way lower level guy, but then apparently they essentially run it together. It's just that final kill guy is like, I guess, the face. And I really appreciate that this scene clearly sets up Rambo didn't really solve this problem, because the other guy they're meeting with, never mentioned again. Rambo does not do anything to, like, it wouldn't have, unless post credits. Fair enough. I don't know for sure, but I think it would, like, if you're gonna do what you're gonna do in this, and I really don't think you should, then at least have this thing of, like, you know, so it turns out they were actually working with this guy, and then he picks up the thing, looks, it zooms in on the face of the guy, zooms in on Rambo's intense eyes, cut, maybe smash cut, and Rambo's like, he's got like a knife to the guy's throat, and something like, let's see, maybe, yeah, like let me think. Yeah, something like, talk or I'll cut you. And then he's like, what happens if I do talk? I'll make it quick, or something like that, and then he does start talking, and then the movie ends, or something. But no, just some of the guys. Let's see. And yeah, Rambo goes to find Gabby, and yeah, Rambo throws away the prescription. So, oh, sorry, this part. He takes the prescription drug while driving in the car, and then there again, for a little bit there, I was wondering, is this going to have, like, he's gonna start zoning out and having trouble? I think that would have been a compelling element if every so often, because of past trauma, he would kind of go out of it. I Were they doing that there at the end with the tunnels, or was that it was supposed to be? Yeah, I guess that it was supposed to be that Rambo makes the cartel enforcers feel like that. To them, it seems like Rambo could be just anywhere, and they're hearing noises that seem inexplicable and such. Yeah, I think that was just that he uses that to, yeah. And the prostitute that tried to escape is punished, and Rambo confronts Miguel, and there's the, yeah, it doesn't get like ultra violent, but he does get a little pushy. And Giselle plays dumb, pretends that she doesn't know what Rambo's talking about. And Giselle took Gabby's bracelet, so Rambo puts his knife to her throat. And I will grant, she didn't know. Wait, no, she knew. She knew that Rambo existed, because they met. I guess she didn't think that he would come. You know what? No, I take it back. It does not make sense. She should have expected that Rambo would. In fact, she should have told the cartel, this guy's probably gonna come for you. Wow. I mean, it wouldn't have been that difficult for for it to just be someone Rambo hadn't met, someone that didn't know. Like, I mean, I guess there's some chance that she never found out that he was. I don't know. And anyway, moving on. She did not hide it from. She wore the bracelet on her arm, and Rambo says she if Giselle gives away that he, is looking for someone in the nightclub, he will make sure to kill her before they kill him. And we have the strobe light in the club, this sort of intense mood kind of thing. That really worked. Man, this movie, like, it could be so much more than it is. And the fact that it's not can sometimes be really frustrating. So yeah, sometimes the mood is incredibly effective. And yeah, the strobe light club is some, yeah. And she does point Rambo to the pimp, and Rambo stabs him and snaps that bone off, and just, yeah, ridiculously gory torture. And honestly, I mean, obviously the effects. If you're watching this, the idea is you also watch the movie, so you already know that the effects are very convincing, and I have to say it looked like it was practical, and that does tend to be the more convincing. But the reaction shots on him, it really didn't react as intensely as you would expect from the experience. So that did take away a little of the tension. And it's weird because I didn't really feel like that was the case there at the end when he kills all the enforcers. That is like the trailers. They use so many clips of the booby trapping at the end. Like, they really took they showed a lot of the things that yeah, a lot of things that are from the ending, but they worked. Very effective trailers. And yeah, Rambo goes to the house with the pimp as his guide, and Rambo gets spotted easily because they want. It's like, did that scene maybe just come from a draft of the movie when it wasn't a Rambo movie or something? Because it's just ridiculous. Like, this is. And again, that's where I have to ask the people who gave this a perfect 10 out of 10 and say, oh, huge Rambo fans, you gotta admit, that's not very. This is Rambo. This literally, like, it's such a huge part of what he does, is not being seen. And it's not even as though, like, it's not as though the movie is saying, oh, he's getting bad in his old age. Not really. He's incredibly effective most of the time he's supposed to be. It's just that they needed him to not be able to do the thing in this, yeah. And the yeah, they, the prostitutes are raped, and it's incredibly disgusting scene. It really is, again, just people who defend this movie and say that there's not anything wrong with how it treats women. Can you really not see it? Just, do you have so little empathy for women? Just watch the scene and imagine that it's your mother or your sister or your daughter. Do you still, at that point, I would hope that you understand that this is not, yeah, it's incredibly gross. I'm not saying that the movie makers think that rape is okay. Of course not. But don't use it so casually. Like, you could cut it, and the only thing, it just wouldn't be as you know, like, let me think. Is there there are movies where the rape scene is a huge, like, it you could not remove it without losing a lot. And I'm afraid that at least some of those, the rape happens so late into the film that I would be spoiling those films by saying it. I guess, man, I really want to give examples. Yeah, just, there are movies where that kind of thing is so, it completely changes characters, where, like, ultimately, none of the women are seen after these scenes. And Gabby died. Gabby's the only one who's seen after the scene, and she dies not very long after. So it's not as though the movie is exploring how the rape affected them. It's there so that the audience will hate them more. Rambo doesn't even find out that it happens, does he? Or is the part where he goes around with the hammer? Maybe he does run into some of them. Yeah, but though he doesn't see anything especially bad, the audience sees the especially bad. When you could have just implied it and let, yeah, men follow Rambo. Rambo ends up cornered, and we have some hand-to-hand combat. And they say they're gonna hurt Gabby especially bad because Rambo tried to free her. Make an example. And Paz Vega. Ah, crap. Is that how you pronounce? Ah, sorry. Should have looked that up. What was her character name? Crap. Um, Vega. I'm gonna go with Vega. She helps him out some, and it's really gross how these sex slaves are sexualized, which, again, it is possible to not sexualize. The fact that they are, yeah. See, again, I know this is gonna be like, this is an example, but I don't know how many people still watch this movie, but it made an impression on me, so I'm bringing it up. I want to say it's called Christiana F, and then it has this German subtitle that translates to something along the lines of "The Children of Bahnhofzu" or something like that. In that movie, there is some prostitution, but the prostitute characters are not sexualized by the camera. It doesn't, because that's not what it's about. It's not, we're not supposed to look at it and think, "Ooh, that's hot." We're supposed to look at it and realize that this is someone who used to not even, this is someone who would never have considered this before they needed money for drugs. The it effectively communicates how destructive addiction can be. and it would have lost a lot if it did sexualize the characters who are prostitutes, because then the audience would be sitting there like, am I supposed to be turned on by this? Is this supposed to be appealing to me? But as it is, it's never appealing, and it's just like, and yeah, and that's also a movie that has, I mean, I'm not gonna get into whether, no, there are scenes in that movie of underage, women having sex with grown men. Obviously, that is by definition rape. That is statutory rape. I believe that's the statutory. Yes. So, yeah, and as such, that movie does have rape scenes, and in that movie, it helps to show how far these characters, how far they've fallen. This is something they used to think was just the most disgusting. They would never have wanted to do this, but now they have to, and now and yeah, you know, and it's because those are actual characters in the movie. They're some of the characters we empathize with. But in this, it's just, yeah, it's like shock value, and it was to make the audience hate them. And if you can't make the audience hate characters in a movie without turning characters into objects, you know, you yeah, then you know you should go learn how to do that. Become a better filmmaker. You really don't need more hackneyed portrayal. Anyway, and we have Rambo all wounded and scarred, and he grabs a hammer and beats people and gets Gabby out of there. And now Gabby also has a scar, she's got some on her face, some on her arm. And I really appreciate, at first, again, when this is a movie about trauma, it's actually really, really good. When he first touches her to like, excuse me, to get her to follow him out of there, the very first reaction she has is she assumes that this is someone else there to rape and or otherwise torment her. I really appreciate that. And, there are a lot of, yeah, there are a lot of movies with this kind of thing where it doesn't properly show it. A lot of movies, a lot of Hollywood movies, when a female, what's it called, hostage, or someone who's been kidnapped or something, the moment that they are, found by the good guy, immediately it acts as though, well, now everything's okay. No, she's really traumatized. She's gonna need some, which is, part of why that scene in the first RoboCop movie is so incredibly funny, because it actually does, in this really dark, messed up way. Yeah, it's not a spoiler for that movie. The woman is, I mean, I don't necessarily want to give away exactly what happens, but over the course, at least one point in the first RoboCop movie, the 1987 movie, a woman is rescued from attackers, and she actually reacts in a, like, yeah, she has a fairly natural reaction, and she's just told, oh, you probably need, like, crisis, you're gonna need some kind of help, call hotline. or something like that, you know, because a lot of the movies didn't even, yeah, they acted like that wouldn't, even something like that wouldn't even be necessary. Just no, it's fine. You know, the good guy has defeated the bad guy. The women are now free, as if the only bad thing that could happen to them is the, yeah. Anyway, and he tries to keep Gabby awake. You know, don't sleep. You have a lot of life left. And he tells her how raising her gave him a lot of faith in people. Oh, right, that's somewhere right there. Ah, hmm. Yeah, I think I can do that. Let me think. I just need to. Careful not to trip over my lighting setup here. And I bounced the camera, didn't I? Let me just make sure to fix it as best I can. Let's see, it's gotta be like this, right? Pretend to be an airplane. Oh, never mind, it's a little bit further. There. Pretend to be an airplane. / check to see if I am in the middle of the frame. Okay, so I just gotta real quick note this before I proceed. Okay, and we get a montage of him setting up traps. And he sends Maria, after he sends Maria away, and he sets up the CrossFit bow and gets out the compact bow. I gotta say, I still really, I am probably never gonna tire of seeing Rambo using a compact bow. And Vega says she won't help him. It was too risky to go back to Mexico. Excuse me. And I have to say, I'm not sure her character was really necessary. She didn't especially accomplish much. I mean, basically, there needed to be someone watching over him while he recovered. That's pretty much it. And let's see. Yeah, and Sly stabs the. Yeah, he gets into the place where the, crap, what was I calling him? Headless? Where Headless is, and he cuts its head off, and yeah, he's tossing. Yeah, he's stabbing people. He's throwing knives. I mean, they're really this is, and he throws the head out the window. I mean, this is not the first time Sylvester Stallone has, in recent memory, cut the head off someone that he in a movie, obviously. Anyway, crap. Right. the again, I'm sorry, but for people who say, oh, just they just wanted to see action in this, I mean, a lot of the movie doesn't have very much action. You know, the near the end, you have the yeah, he goes after Headless, and then he lures them to the farm. Other than that, there's really not very much action in this movie. Maybe you think that like the story and such is absolutely amazing, but this really, I mean, this might be the least, other than the climax, which is very big. You know, other than that, there's probably less action in this than any other of these movies. You know, I mean, the first one, a lot of the action isn't necessarily like huge, but there is action. You know, excuse me. Let's see. I mean, I guess, you know, certainly it's enjoyable enough to see Rambo going, you know, he talks to Giselle, he talks to the pimp, talks to the father. Let's see. Yeah, you know, and he finds his way, and he gets the pimp to take him to the house. But ultimately, yeah, that kind of feels like just Taken. And I mean, I'm not gonna. It's not that I love Liam Neeson more as an action star than Sylvester Stallone, but why are we? Why is Rambo doing this kind of thing? It's just like, yeah, it really didn't fit with the other, yeah. And the the cars drive up, and that first one blows up big time, and they get into the tunnels. Rambo's picking them off one by one, and Rambo does end up with a wound in his stomach, and he blows up the tunnels around Final Kill Guy, and he fires arrows into him, one per arm, one per leg. And he really did rip out his beating heart like he said he would. And yeah, that's my last note. I'm not gonna lie, when he, with ease, shot 4 arrows into this guy, I kept expecting the other guy to whip out a knife or fire off a shot or something. It just, I don't know. I mean, that guy never actually did anything intimidating, did he? He threatened. I'm not saying he's not evil. I'm not saying he didn't do evil things. I'm saying that I don't think he did anything like action wise. He ran around with that gun, but I'm not sure. Did he even fire it even once? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, so that is that entire section, and that takes us to the second section, notes taken before watching. If you like this vlog that I make about this movie, you might be thinking, hey, why don't I watch his other vlogs about the other movies? That's because please don't. And yet, I'll add this to the playlist, and more importantly, link to the plays in the description. Anyway, I criticize the movies, except for the first one, for reasons that I've since decided are not reasons to criticize movies for me personally. But, you know, if you don't like the you know, the only one I give a particularly positive, I say some nice, yeah, the first and the fourth movie, I was gonna, yeah, but if you don't like movies 2 and 3, and you want to hear me snark about it, then those videos might be for you. But yeah, and from when I first heard this was happening, you know, I really hope this is smart decisions making still, you know, Sly, and yeah, I'm just gonna dive right in. I really wish this did not have Latinos as the bad guys. Same as with Peppermint, the Jennifer Garner Revenge movie. And I can imagine other films as well. I don't watch many current action movies that aren't connected to people I watch films of and or comic books. I realize that the movie has cartels as the main villains. It's not actually saying that all illegal immigrants are who's doing this, or at least not regular ones. But a lot of audience members are not going to get that distinction. Trump has long said the Latinos bring drugs and crime and are rapists. Currently, the US has immigrant children dying in detention camps. No toothpaste and soap. Deportation of people who've been in the US for many years and contribute a lot to society. No one's saying open the border to the worst criminals. It's just that those of us who are literal monsters in the shape of human beings are asking the people who are, okay, I literally do mean literally this time, fleeing violence, running for their lives, to be given a chance at asylum. The idea of Latinos being dangerous has clearly motivated several mass shooters and other terrorists. You know, they're not exactly shy about the, you know, admitting that, communicating that. This is the wrong time to have Latinos as bad guys in action movies. Honestly, why couldn't it be, for example, white nationalist terrorists who are currently far more dangerous to, if you're talking about who in America is really dangerous to other people, white nationalist terrorists are really dangerous to everyone who isn't a white right winger. Rambo could be protecting immigrants from white nationalist terrorists. They are the ones sending pipe bombs and gunning people down. Statistically speaking, Latinos are a lot less likely to become criminals than white people. And on the other hand, though, they are very frequently the victims of crime, and the reason for that is the same as the reason why they're much so much less likely to be criminals. They don't want the police looking into their status or the legal status or that of the their friends and family and such. Now, I've seen some user reviews say that it doesn't make a difference whether they're Latinos or some other group. The reason why that is incredibly wrong, and it is that a lot of racist white people in America live close enough to Latinos that they can and may indeed commit real life violence against people who haven't done anything wrong. This is the way that kind of thing happens, by media perpetuating. The moment that Trump said it, literally everyone should have been like, no, that's complete BS. That's not true at all. And the fact that he went on to become president is insane. But his rhetoric is some of the most hateful and incendiary, in a long time. He is getting people, if even before he was putting people into detention facilities, he was getting people hurt with his rhetoric. Let me think. There was some other thing I wanted to say. Yeah. When media perpetuate these negative stereotypes, a lot of people, they take the stereotypes to be representative of reality, and not all of these people, but some of them, and it's enough. Go out and get guns or send pipe bombs, or a number of them don't go that far. But yeah, maybe they go beat up some Latinos that are near them, or like vandalize some of their properties, or the like. Now, I guess, yeah, I think. Now, I've seen people say, oh, there were movies like this in the 80s. Some of those movies were terrible back then as well. And just because something used to be more acceptable doesn't mean it's going to keep being acceptable. Even though a lot of people refuse to accept that certain things are becoming less acceptable. I'm not happy that there's apparently a Jason Statham movie that has a similar plot to this movie. But Rambo is an icon. In the first movie, he was the soldier coming back from Vietnam who had been broken by it. Had, his entire unit broken, even killed by it. In the second movie, he represented the group of Americans who wanted the US military to stay in Vietnam. In the third, he represented the group of Americans who wanted America to take a more active role against the Soviet forces in Afghanistan. The fourth movie is trying to convince people to take a more active role in Burma. I'm not claiming that this movie does not represent a group of American people. I'm saying it's a group of people who shouldn't get movies made that don't question the way they view Latinos. I was wondering if this movie was going to have a single positive Latino character, and really barely at all. Certainly Maria is loving, but also ultimately she can't talk Gabby out of going to Mexico. Gabby herself is frustratingly naive. I already mentioned that Vega, I mean, I guess she's there for like, you know, complete, to be completely honest, I think I may have missed some dialogue. But from the stuff I didn't miss, I'm not sure there was anything in there that, it was just that I feel like they probably they wrote most of the movie and then they realized if Rambo gets this badly hurt, we do need someone to watch over him as he recovers from it. And so they wrote in this character. You know, I if she did anything that affected anything other than that, I can't. I don't know what it is. Now, Miguel did not need to be someone who didn't care about his wife and daughter. Again, right now, Latino parents are being separated from their children because they want to save each other from deadly violence. And then this movie has a Latino man outright say that he hates his family. It plays into hateful stereotypes. Obviously, a white guy who thinks Latinos don't care about even their own families are more likely to hate, maybe even physically attack Latinos, which is what's happening. It just, it's so dehumanizing. I just, it's, I mean, I want to say that it's hard to understand, but sadly I've seen enough hate in my life yeah, a lot of people just can't. Just the fact that there are people out there who are not carbon copies of themselves, that's enough for some people. That's a problem in and of itself. Let's say that this movie was about was the white nationalists were the villains. Then the painful loss of the parent could be Gabby realizing the truth that her father was murdered years ago by white nationalists, and she thought that he left intentionally and wants to ask him, why did you leave? And then instead of Giselle selling her out, have it be someone white who pretends to respect her. Yeah, like, someone who realizes, oh, you know, you're in a bad situation. You don't really have anybody taking care of you. Just I'll take care of you, and then turns out that person is aligned with the white nationalists. I mean, before you say, oh, that's so stereotypical, or that's awful. In the movie as it is, she literally, I mean, what did she even sell her for? Did she get a lot of money? And we know she got the bracelet. I honestly don't even. I mean, she didn't live particularly well. I guess the idea is that she hopes that eventually she'll have sold out enough people that she will get some money or anything in return. But anyway, Latino characters in this, pretty much all the men are violent, rapey, and without any remorse over drug sales and other horrible drug cartel practices. And to be clear, I do agree, those practices are horrible. Miguel isn't violent, but he is reprehensible. And the yeah, other than Maria, the women are all victims. Actually, yeah, technically she's not a victim like directly, but she is a victim by. I don't know if that counts. I guess if it doesn't count that her crap. I gotta say it's not her. They're not mother and daughter. They're yeah. I'm sorry. I don't remember their exact relationship. But anyway, if that doesn't count, then Vega isn't a victim either. But other than that, now I haven't watched the Sicario movies, but from what I hear, at least the first one questions whether the current tactics are working against the drug cartels and in the war on drugs in general. It doesn't just say, "Oh, Latinos, excuse me, are drug dealers," and that's excuse me, that's the problem. Let's see. Now, yeah, I did really enjoy Rambo 4, but there is a chunk of it where Rambo does not commit any act of violence, and even chunks of the movie that have very little violence at all. And yeah, so I hope this one is more consistent in having violence throughout. That is what we expect from a Rambo movie. No, it has less, and I actually do appreciate that. A chunk of the way, I do feel like, excuse me, he legitimately, excuse me, yeah, Rambo himself. We, this is a Rambo who doesn't want to do violence anymore. He's not, think about how easy it could have been to have them have like a thing of how Rambo does not like Gabby's boyfriend and he's gonna try to intimidate the boyfriend or something, but no. Instead, he says, you can go ahead and take them on a tour of the tunnels. I'm okay with that. Anyway. Right, so I took some notes from the trailer that, let's see, the 30th of the 5th. I forget if that was the date the trailer also went up or if that was just the first time where I sat down and took notes. Even from this trailer, Stallone's skin really does look like leather. Old, hardened, dry. I'm not saying that as an insult. The fact that he's still this badass at his age is actually kind of incredible. And let's see. Yeah, and we have some various clips of like, what's it called? Yeah, the traps from the end of the movie. And made me wonder, as the character of Rambo simply become Jigsaw? The other movies are not this over the top, and I'm not complaining. Now, see, my biggest issue with it is that it's that the Latinos are the bad guys, and that ultimately I do think that it felt kind of flat, and I don't know if the word is unearned, but something. It just didn't have the kick that the other ones do, you know. I guess I should just briefly say I said that I don't like how I criticized the Rambo 2 and 3. I do stand by that. I don't think we should make movies that kind of what's the term, like, yeah, the way that the movie treats the Vietnam War. Basically, I'm not saying it's not inherently wrong to have like violent power fantasies in movies and other media, but to have one about Vietnam where, like, part of the big problem with the Vietnam War was that American soldiers ended up actually hurting civilians. And I'm not saying that's it's not like, oh, they were, all the soldiers were racist. No, no, the Viet Cong hid among civilians sometimes. But you can't, you shouldn't make a movie where like a good guy is just gunning down tons of Viet Cong in this heroic fashion when that's like the problem with the Vietnam War was not that not enough American soldiers were running around gunning down Viet Cong. The problem was, one of the problems were that they hid amongst villagers, so sometimes the American soldiers would be over, would end up killing civilians thinking they were Viet Cong, and Viet Cong managed to kill a lot of Americans because they hid so effectively. So just, yeah, you can do that kind of thing with World War II, but you can't do it with Vietnam. You shouldn't do it. Now, anyway, yeah. So the let's see. Yeah, so back to the trailer. The end of the trailer is, he's all bloodied and he walks up and is about to stab. I thought he was going to stab the other person from behind with sneaking up, but in the movie he actually nails it's final kill guy. He nails him to the wall or the door. So he knows how to hit a barn door, and then he does walk up and is going to stab him. But the reason, it's not that the other guy doesn't see him and has his back turned, it's that he's stuck. I'm really glad they didn't give away. I quite liked seeing him nailed up like that. And yeah, I know this is such a fun trailer. I watched this, yeah, 30th, 5th of this year, a full week after the Terminator Dark Fate trailer, and this one, got me way more hyped for the return of a movie series that logically should have died long ago, since it's over 35 years old now. In fact, the fact that it's still alive and has been going on for that long is really kind of surprising. There's only 5 movies in the series, 6 movies in the case of Terminator, and that made me wonder, would I prefer that the Terminator 6 trailer was like this? A lot of brutal, bloody violence in a very over-the-top kind of way, harkening back to an extreme standard set early in the series. 100% absolutely yes. Now, yeah, Terminator Genesis, Halloween 2018, 2018's The Predator all mark recent entries in long-running franchises that know the most recent film that is, have to not only reference but also toy around with elements from the first movie in the series. And yeah, and I know I wouldn't be surprised if Rambo joins that group, but let's see. Yeah, the let's see. I mean, maybe Dark Fate will turn out. I can imagine Dark Fate will turn out to be a better movie than this, but this one, in so many ways, was so satisfying as for series. But yeah, I mean the let's see. Again, I'm not. I definitely have problems with this movie. You know, I really it's incredibly gross. The that Latinos are the bad guys, and I saw one critic say it'll probably become Trump's favorite movie. I think that might be like I I would not be able to top that insult. And I'm pretty sure the critic meant it as a bad thing, you know, himself. So anyway, it's so messed up and so wrong to do that. But on the other hand, the movie does really understand, you know, this is a man who lost everything and was broken, but then he over the years he healed. And yeah, I anyway, now yeah, so I noted that yeah, let's see. You know, yeah, the end of the excuse me, the end of the fourth movie heavily implies that he's gonna, you know, he returns to the farm and he's gonna maybe see his father again or something. But the you know, I really appreciate what they did with it here. The fact that yeah, you know, you don't it's not him seeing his father again, but it does there is some like family kind of yeah, you know, the thing that excuse me, the hint at the end of the fourth movie was that maybe he can, you know, like it's his roots and like family and that kind of thing. And in this, it's adopted family. It's not blood relative, but it does follow up on what we and I really appreciate that. So you know, it's one of those things where like the fourth movie kind of sort of ends with a hint of a movie that is way better seeming than the one you just sat through. You know, it's really like considering the 20 years that passed, they could have made, you know, the fourth movie could have been the movie that the ending of the fourth movie hints at, you know, but yeah. And honestly, if they had made if this had been the fourth movie, if this had come out in 2008, it would have been a lot less offensive than it is right now, you know. Honestly, if it did, it's I can imagine that it would have been like Muslims instead, but let's see, by 2008, you know, right away there was definitely a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment, which is also why I have such enormous respect for movies like X-Men 2, which instead of, you know, that movie could so easily have been about forget Magneto, the real, you know, we good guy mutants have to stop the Muslims, but instead it you know, it basically goes in and does a story that is a lot like the whole 9/11 and you know 9/11 happens and it leads to an armed conflict, but the mutants aren't like fighting alongside American troops against Muslims. The mutants are essentially Muslims in the you know yeah, it starts with a minority of Muslims slash mutants attacking you know the yeah, launching one really horrible attack on American, you know, let's leave it at that. And then there's this, you know, kind of what's it called? Like a increased violence of situation kind of. I feel like there's at least one other movie, but right now come I can't quite remember which. Now, let's see. Right, yeah, and before I knew what the plot was gonna be, I, yeah, I'm just gonna read out my notes here. Obviously, it can't be about the Vietnam War like 1 and 2. Hopefully, isn't gonna do another tribute to a group of people that we later come to know as, is it Taliban? I want to say is the like third one, and then the fourth one. You have. I mean, it's technically about communists anyway. So, this time, is he fighting a drug gang or something? I mean, it's got to be one of the hot button right wing nut job conspiracy theory bad guys. So now, let's see. Right. So the first of the sixth this year. Watch Mojo put out top 3 things you missed from the Rambo 5 Last Blood trailer. I don't think I really have anything to bring up from this, but just yeah. Now let's see. And I listened to the commentary for First Blood. Stallone is a lot more sensitive, smart, and well-spoken than one might think, considering some of his movie roles and his conservatism. He calls the withdrawn Rambo almost semi-autistic. I see what he means, and I do know some Aspies who take the abuse Rambo does in these films, as long as they come out as badass as he is on the other side. And he points out how goofy the weekend warriors are. He sings the Addams Family theme with the word goofy in place of creepy, etc. Yeah. And excuse me. And First Blood, there's this, First Blood deleted scenes. The original, there's, you know, yeah, the original ending, and it's kind of crazy how, they were actually originally Rambo dies, and they just, crap, I used to know, I forget now, but maybe they screened it or something, or some studio head was like, let's keep it alive, maybe we can do more movies or something. But it does make a lot of sense. Basically, Rambo makes Troutman kill him, and I have to say, I as much as I enjoy the fourth movie, and I certainly understand people who enjoy movies 2 and 3, I, I don't not enjoy them, like, not at all, but it's just, I do find it really troubling. Anyway, the I do think it would have been perfect for the first movie to end with Rambo getting Troutman to kill him, and yeah, and then there's, the DV listed as humorous ending. It's basically an outtake, like the let me think. I think he tells Troutman to shoot him, and Troutman says no, I won't, or something, and Rambo says thank you, sir, or something, and then, like, people start laughing, and both actors very clearly break character. So I mean, it's not really ending. It's just, I don't know. They maybe didn't know what to. They didn't want to call it ending blooper or something. I don't know. Let's see. Now, Right, and Brad Jones did a video talking about it. I'm not sure there's really any. I did note what he says the thing about the crap the thing about the yeah, he points out about the hair, that he doesn't have long hair, and that is kind of, yeah, I it is a little odd seeing Rambo with short hair, but I mean, he's had 37. It is, isn't it? It's 37. He's had 37 years to get a haircut. At some point, he's gotta get sick of being hassled by small time sheriffs about town, not time, about the hair. It just, I agree, it fits in the first movie, and it's a very recognizable aspect of him in the other ones. But anyway, now I don't talk about the Saw movies very often, but I did mention Jigsaw in this. I am aware of the Saw movies. I the Saw movies are not really my kind of thing. But when the first Saw came out, my friends would ask me, "Did you see Saw?" And I was like, "See Saw? Of course I saw Saw." The the idea that I would not see Saw just because Saw seems to not be my kind of thing, just ridiculous. Now, actually, I reviewed this very, very nearly a full decade after I started doing videos on YouTube. That, yeah, 1 week from now, 20, yeah, I started doing videos the 28th of 9th of '09. So 1 week from now will be the yeah. Now, yeah, Sly could be a great actor under the right circumstances, as seen in Rambo and Rocky movies, Tough Badass, Gentle Giant, and others. And I have not, and I won't watch the TV series. It is pretty incredible that a full 37 years after the original, Sly is in great shape and can pull off the role still. Now, oh, right, here I go into, yeah. The original has an alternate ending where the Colonel shoots Rambo. I guess either there wouldn't be sequels or they'd retcon it as a nightmare hallucination or something. Yeah, so I took some notes from rewatching First Blood. I love a ton of things about first movie, and I have to say one of those things is 1980s Brian Dennehy. There's this shot, 1 hour 11 minutes in, where the sheriff is told Rambo's still out there. All it is in the back of the frame, just a very like if this is the frame, he's just like tiny little, and he gets up from his desk, but it's so great, just like from the body language, just I yeah, absolutely love him. I love him in the FX movies as well. Just yeah. We're fortunate there's no truly quote unquote bad Rambo film yet. There's bad Rocky, bad Terminator. Really, yeah. I mean, this is not a bad movie or even a bad Rambo movie. It's maybe kind of uneven Rambo movie, but yeah. Now, in this, Sly does good. Well, I mean, he does well. Come down face to face. We're doing quick. Oh, that show. between Rocky and Rambo, Sly's made a career out of film series where the first film is like, this protagonist is past his prime. He won't be able to do more than maybe one more fight within his field, and then he's just done. And then when it becomes a film series, it gets increasingly immediate. In the case of Rambo, look how awesome this protagonist is what he does. At what he does. Sure, something like that. Now, Rambo 2 and 3 are practically the same movie, except for the country that it's set in, and whether it's Rambo or the Colonel who are taken prisoner. Now, Rambo fights communists, even Russians. There are even Russians in both movies, and he frees prisoners and leads them to a helicopter, blows up a ton of enemy individuals and vehicles. Now, let's see. And ultimately, other than the style of filmmaking, Rambo 4 is very similar to 2 and 3, but there is still at least a little bit more, difference. Now, let's see. Rambo 1 through 4 are all under 100 minutes, and supposedly this one is also right around there. Like I said, I believe 90 minutes without any end credits. Now, Rambo 1 through Rambo 3, one way or another, Rambo always ends up with crap on his body. The Rambo 3 DVD subtitles are almost always different from the spoken dialogue, but at the very end it said that they were done by a German guy, so maybe he wrote it in German and translated it back to English or something. It did greatly enhance my enjoyment of rewatching that movie. It's a fun movie, but it's, it's way better like that. It's like literally constantly, like sometimes they're just small differences, but sometimes they're pretty substantial. It's just like I I don't I don't think I've ever watched another movie where someone subtitling in the same language as it's spoken got it so maybe you watched the German dub of the movie and then translated that directly into English or something. It's just anyway. Now, and yeah, Rambo 2, 3, and 4. Rambo takes increasingly longer to be convinced into fighting the main bad guys. And the end of Rambo 3 is essentially a buddy movie between Rambo and the Colonel, which is pretty wild considering, in the first movie, like, the Colonel is basically like, this guy's super dangerous, so you gotta, like, he wasn't, like, he didn't, like, hate Rambo at that, it's just, yeah, it's just very, very different. And I appreciate that Rambo 3 outright says that the US fighting in Vietnam was a mistake, considering the second movie, which was also a mistake. And Rambo 3, 4, let's see. Not really so much this one, but yeah, Rambo 3 and 4, we have Reluctant Rambo. Now, in Rambo 3, he kicks open the sewer grate because now he's superhumanly strong. Rambo has this face of like, I have made a huge mistake. Maybe he didn't wear sensible shoes or something. Now, the end of Rambo 2, the Russian flying that helicopter, he's just so jazzed to be on the show, man. It's nice to see someone with enthusiasm for their job. When I watched Rambo 2 and 3 the same day. They're short movies, After I watched the second one, I watched the UHF clip. Yes, UHF clip where Weird Al makes fun of Rambo, and he really does hit very nicely on the tropes. And, then I watched the third movie. I had not realized that the third movie is essentially Rambo self-parody. Like, they're like relatively close to the end. There's like a huge line of tanks, and you've got these two guys standing there, and then they actually, oh, okay, they're gonna have to surrender. Nope, they actually do fight. I mean, they take cover pretty quickly, but it's still absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you're going to depict the Vietnam War and its effect on people, I prefer Universal Soldier 1 to Rambo 2, acknowledging that it broke people instead of saying it can be fixed by just sending in more military. Now, yeah, in the first movie, Rambo is a broken man. Movies 2 through 5, Rambo fights in a way that it's implied the US military should. I suppose in the case of Rambo 5, it's more it's not military specifically, but it is US forces. Like, yeah. And for these movies, it's very clear Sly was very dedicated to realism. In Rambo 2, I think it's Charles Napier who says something like, I have to cover America's ass, which I thought was the job of the pants of Steve Rogers, but no. And oh yeah, I did put it here. Yeah, climax where they're facing all the vehicles. Rambo just starts attacking them. The series enters self-parody. And in Rambo 2, Rambo hides by covering himself with mud, which really sees the benefit of all that time spent in District 12 decorating incredibly specific cakes. It is tight. Now, I guess this is kind of, excuse me, this movie is the first of the 5 to not really have a harsh real-life physical environment. Or, I mean, I guess the very start with the hikers, but other than that, I wouldn't really say that it does. Rambo 4 has excellent deleted scenes on the DVD, and one Rambo explains his philosophy, why he doesn't help the Karen, war is man's natural state. When you're pushed, killing is as easy as breathing, which they put in later, so that made it into the movie. Old men start wars, young people die fighting them, and the truth is never told. Real excellent stuff. I will say, even at its worst, there's all 5 of these movies. No matter how bad some of them get, there's always something there to really that that you can really, if you just focus specifically on that, you could see, that is a, that's a good sentiment or the like. Now, right, and Rambo 2 and 4, yeah, and I guess, yeah, and this one as well. The main female character is essentially an object that digs out whatever humanity Rambo himself has, has left, brings it to the surface, reveals the, let's see, yeah, so the military, in the case of the fourth movie, also the pirates, they have no humanity left because they treat her so badly. I mean, ultimately, she might as well be a Christian cross. When Rambo sees it, he is inspired to go on. When the military and pirates see it, they want to burn it or something. Yeah, and I had until right now where I reread it, I had actually forgotten that I had written that. But yeah, it really is. I mean, I guess the reason the third movie didn't end up with a situation like that was because instead of a woman, it was Troutman that he was there. He was a major character that he's saving. And in the first one, he doesn't save anyone. But yeah, again, it really speaks to how some of these writers view women. That the most important thing a woman could do is die in a way that makes men want to get revenge, that motivate men to do violence, and that's supposed to solve the problem. I'm not saying there's no problem ever that can be solved with violence, but a lot of problems that conservatives really think that, we just gotta apply enough violence. That violence doesn't solve the problem long term. Now and that's another thing. The second movie is from 1985, and it treats the one major female character very similar to how this movie treats it. So, maybe you don't think it's a bad thing, but it very clearly, 34 years later, and the female character still plays basically the same role. You know, that really is very, yeah. At least we're finally getting, we've gotten Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, and we are getting more movies where, you know, a woman gets to do something other than die to motivate a guy. Now, sorry, when speaking specifically about big Hollywood action blockbusters, I'm not saying that no movies have. I'm just saying there are a lot of guys who are not going to watch the other movies that have, a lot of female characters. But they will watch the action movies, and the action movies, yeah, it matters if it is, yeah, anyway. Rambo 4 could stand alone. If you haven't watched any of the other movies, you can very easily follow it. Rambo 2 and 3, you do kind of need to have watched the ones leading up to it. You won't get as much out of them, at least. Now, Rambo 2 and 3 don't have PTSD flashbacks as far as I remember. Considering I watched them very recently, I really should remember. If they had them, they didn't make any impression on me, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, I do love Rambo 4, but I can't claim that it isn't fairly padded and slow of a movie. I mean, ultimately, it does not have that much content. It's just that the content is great, and the delivery of the content is also great, but there aren't very many notes to the characters or situations. And even with that, the movie's 77 minutes if you don't count the end credits, and only 87 if you do count them. Now, Rambo 4 is so far the only sequel. So far the only movie other than the first one where Rambo feels like he is the same character as he was in the first one. Damaged, essentially broken, is withdrawn from the rest of the world, and does not want to get back into any conflict. And that's something I really appreciate. This one also does understand that. I mean, movies 2 and 3 might as well just be a different character. That's the thing I really hate about. Yeah, the first movie is such. I mean, there's almost nothing about the first movie that's not perfect. It was a movie that needed to be made, and then they go and use the character for these stories that really did not need to be made. Like during the Cold War, there were plenty of movies communicating, right-wing American, panic at the thought that there are, not every country, is agrees with America on, so, and a lot of the movies are bad and, thankfully long forgotten, but yeah. I'm not saying that the Soviet Union was not a threat. I'm saying that the right wing in America, is that the Jacob fly, was, yeah, you know what, McCarthyism, there. You cannot, under any circumstances, defend McCarthyism, and McCarthyism is just one of the things that the right wing did in response. There we go. There is no problem in the world so bad that conservatives can't make it so much worse when they do something that supposedly is a solution. Now, all the Rambo movies have amazing action, especially climaxes. And maybe it's just me, but I do find in Rambo 4, with Rambo struggling to reload the machine gun on the Jeep, almost being hit is more tense and suspenseful than Rambo 2 or 3, and I do tend to enjoy more recent action movies over older ones. I think Hollywood's getting better and better at making action movies all the time. The let me think. That was the thing that, yeah, I guess that's. Now, the photos on IMDb make it look like he's making a knife again, like in the 2008 film. Is he just a full-on blacksmith? Was that his job for a while? People get him to smith stuff. Does he make horseshoes? Isn't that one of the things that... Anyway. Now, Rambo 2 through 5 films imply that the conflict Rambo takes part in could actually be solved with violence, as long as it's sufficient, you know, sufficiently violent and the right kind of violence. And I'm not 100% certain if Rambo 4, if that could have worked, but the other ones definitely couldn't. I did look up some stuff about the fourth movie, but I think I just forgot to finish researching that part, so yeah. Now, the first three movies are in part or in whole, depending on the movie, defined by the conflict between America and communism during the Cold War. The Soviet Union dissolved a few years after the third movie came out, and 20 years passed between the third and fourth movies coming out. It's not like no one wanted more Rambo. I doubt that conservatives will ever tire of the kind of Rambo we see from the second movie onwards. Similar to Captain America after World War II, Rambo lost his identity when the Cold War ended. I guess you can make an argument that he found it again in the fourth movie, but most likely it is simply lost and can't be regained. I feel like if they do make a movie, like a prequel, where we see Rambo as he was before Vietnam at all, and then we see how Vietnam breaks him, that could still be relevant. But the idea of Rambo, the hero, running around and fighting the fights that, yeah, I don't think. Now, like other action movies, the first four Rambo films only go completely crazy and have a lot of traps that people are into, with some violence and non-stop action in the climax of the movie, and this also. I mean, really, the let's see, in the first movie and this movie, he makes a lot of traps to yeah. I mean, in the second one, isn't it mostly? Let's see, the. I mean, yeah, yeah, I guess he doesn't do it that much in 2, 3, and 4, does he? I'm not entirely sure that. I feel like, excuse me, in those movies it's more that he's good at quickly getting from one to the other and killing them without being noticed. But in the first one and this one, he actually sets up traps. Now, right. I gotta have the thing. Oh. IMDb, Wikipedia, and critics sites. Now, the critics' consensus, like the sequels that preceded it, Rambo for Last Blood is content to indulge and bloody violence at the expense of its main character's once poignant story. And it has a 31% on the tomato meter with, let's see, 78 reviews total and only 24 of them fresh. So, yeah. But the audience score is 85%, so considering it's hateful towards Latinos, that is effing depressing. Yeah, 719 verified ratings for the... I mean, at the end of the day, that's the thing to remember about Rotten Tomatoes. It's a yay or nay. It's thumbs up, thumbs down. That doesn't mean that, like, the vast majority of those people would have given it an 8.5 out of 10. It just means that 85% of them gave it a thumbs up instead of a thumbs down. Now, the average rating for critics was 4.13 out of 10. And the average rating for audience goers is 4.28. I don't know, is that out of 5? I really wish they would write that, but anyway. Now, yeah, to get to these are the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. It is less an escapist action movie and more dramatized manifestation of the most notorious sentences from Donald Trump's presidential campaign announcement speech. Very true and very damning. And yeah, this review says, it vainly tries for some of the human soul drove the 1982 original. And yeah, I'm not sure I would quite say it's entirely in vain, but it is largely. He has destroyed an entire battalion of Vietnamese troops. He defeated the Russians in Afghanistan. He decimated the Burmese military machine. Now the iconic super soldier John Rambo faces his greatest threat, greatest enemy yet, audience apathy. Okay, let me just see, I guess. And there, that should do it. Yeah, I guess so far that is about it. I, I, I feel like it was on the Wikipedia, the entry for the movie. Someone pointed out that the Rambo Last Blood is basically taking me to Home Alone, only racist. See, is he saying, I mean, I get it if he's saying Home Alone isn't racist, but he can't possibly believe that Taken isn't also racist. It's just, It's not racist against Latinos. It's racist against Muslims. Anyway, yeah, and this a fascist snuff film. Yeah. And let's see. Loud, full of hot air, but perversely watchable, Sylvester Stallone's sequel might become Donald Trump's favorite movie. Now, let's see. Yeah, so the yeah, Wikipedia, one of the critics said that the the U.S. Mexico border is laughably easy to pass, and it is absolutely ridiculous. Which is actually ironic. Like the of the times that the border is crossed in the movie, it really is only the near the end when all the cartel guys go from Mexico to America. That's the one time where like it would have been, you know, the U.S. would have prevented, you know, bad guys from coming into the country. The rest of the time, the movie, Rambo goes back and forth, and you know, Gabby goes back and forth without any, yeah. Now, let's see. So, sorry. What I'm getting at is, I don't know if it's ironic, coincidental, interesting, whatever. Ultimately, the movie's depiction of a U.S. Mexico border that isn't even a little bit of a hassle. Like it's like swatting away a fly or something. It's not actually difficult. It's just up. Get away. Get out of my face real quick. And that's it. And because of that, it actually makes Rambo's mission is a lot easier, because if he tried to get into Mexico, and the and it's like, well, my you know the this my adopted daughter disappeared here and I haven't heard from her. They'd be like, yeah, okay, we have our own police. Bye. You're not getting into our country. We're not letting some macho, like, just, we get it. You want revenge. We're not gonna help you with that. Okay, just no, bye. Although would Gabby even have been stopped? I mean, if she said, it's well, I want to, I've been told where my father is. I want to go talk to him. They might have let her through for that, and she could have said, no, I'm staying with a friend, Giselle. You can, here's her phone number. You can, or wait, no, she didn't have her phone. Whatever. It is like, yeah, if hypothetically in the movie, if the U.S. Mexico border had been impervious, it would actually have been more trouble for Rambo and Gabby than for the cartels. So, it kind of makes an argument against a better border. Now, let's see. The Looney Tunes nature of Rambo's murder spree tempers much of the script's ideological offense. Excuse me. Now, guess, yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. Rambo Lost Blood doesn't just feel dated and quite tone deaf, but also stuck in an era that's long gone with no need for nostalgia to remind us of it. It's less a true Rambo movie and more a generic and small scale, taken knockoff with John Rambo arbitrarily thrown into the mix. Excuse me. So those were Rotten Tomato critic reviews. Now I'm gonna go through some Rotten Tomato user reviews. I'm not 100% sure how much of this I'm actually going to. I think the ones that I wanted to comment on are Metacritic ones. One guy said, not so good. Could have killed more people. I don't know if he fell asleep before the ending. I don't know, 20 minutes or something, but it seems like pretty sure at least a dozen people were killed there. I don't know. I guess for some people it's never enough. Maybe he feels like the more of the movie should have been him killing, and that I can understand. Yeah, this guy was frankly the least amount of action of all the movies. Yeah, let me just briefly. I don't think. I mean, this is as misguided as the second movie in some ways. I mean, ultimately, the third movie, it's not as much misguided as much as it didn't age well, and just the it had pushed into self parody territory, and that's where I'm glad the fourth one didn't go completely crazy with. Anyway, the again, all of these movies are fairly well made. I would say that I yeah, overall, it's not as good as the fourth, and definitely not as good as the first. But I do think this movie, the fifth movie, is better than two and three, which is fitting because two and three together make five. The let's see. The stuff with the okay, yeah, and now we get to the Metacritic Pro reviews. The stuff that had where Rambo was more yeah, where he's not like yeah, Rambo being closer to a regular like in a lot of this, Rambo does not seem to want to engage in any violence. Or yeah, I guess maybe the first third or even half of this movie, he really does not seem like he still wants to do violence, and it bothers him when he can't save people that he hoped to save and things like that. And he talks about how spending 10 years raising this girl really helped him heal. That kind of stuff is so much better than the second and third movies as far as characterization go. And but yeah, like the first one is still the only truly great movie in the entire series, and in part it shouldn't have been a series. The one that I would put on for like fun action but also not like really offensive as a, like, if I just want fun action, yeah, really all five can offer that. But like, if I just want like fun, turn my brain off and enjoy action, I'll probably go for the fourth, since unlike movies 2 and 3, it doesn't, like, I don't have to like somehow pretend that the bad guys aren't the who they are in the movie, you know, and the conflict, maybe more, excuse me, what the conflict is. But yeah, I would definitely say that I feel like this one, more than any other sequel, really feel, this is John Rambo as we saw him in the first movie, and it is like this thing of, he legitimately does not want to do more violence, and he wants to kind of, yeah, he wants to be able to help people in ways that don't involve violence, which, yeah, it's I don't think there's ever going to be a truly great Rambo sequel, because how would you do that? If it was a different character, maybe, but the whole point of the first movie is that this is a man who was broken by the Vietnam War. The idea of then trying to make that character someone that audiences should cheer for when he does these violent things that he, it just, yeah. But like I already said, it's similar with Rocky, because the first movie was specifically about how he wasn't going to be able to defeat the. I'm not going to spoil the ending of the first movie. I'm just saying he goes into it not expecting to be able to defeat the guy he's boxing against, and then in some of the later movies, no, now he is the best, basically the best boxer in I guess all of America. Whatever. When the first movie, he keeps saying, "This is my last shot. I'm never going to be able to fight after this." Now, let's see. And hmm, I yeah. The This is a quite good. The taste of toxicity will overwhelm whatever pulpy grindhouse pleasures you might have experienced. A franchise that started off with a sense of betrayal and righteous anti-authoritarian anger ends by parroting authoritarian talking points that betray what this country is about. Let this please be the last of its kind. I think that says it very well. It's staged, scored, and cut together with an aggressively deadening quality, numbing your senses to the very impact it intends. Here, it's the screenwriters, not the cartel, who should be held accountable for conjuring a virginal relative only to violate and degrade her. And let's see, this guy gave a 3 out of 10. And yeah, I think that's it. It really is just, that really is all they think. Some men think that the only thing, either a woman is like, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, or she is abused by men, which should, which spurs her, husband, father, son, on to hurt those men back in revenge for what they did to her. But the woman doesn't get to make decisions that affect the plot, and she doesn't get to be, I mean, it's still not great, but it is maybe at least something when it's the woman herself who gets to take the revenge. Now, Rambo Last Blood captures everything that's gone wrong with this action franchise over the years. On the surface, Last Blood may be a mess of a B-movie contrivances, but like its world-weary namesake, it's also a timely window into the vanity of violent solutions, and why brutality is only viable when fighting for a lost cause. And that brings us to the Metacritic user reviews. Okay, this guy gave it a 5 out of 10. Nah, never mind. I don't have anything. I'm not saying that user reviews are, like, I think some user reviews are incredibly, like, deeply compelling. But I have to say, a lot of these, I'm not seeing. Maybe over the coming days or weeks it'll come. But so far, the people who, like, you have people who just love the movie. Some of them don't bring up the critics, but others say, oh, they just want to hate the movie or something. Just, I'm not saying you have to hate the movie, but could you at least, like, discuss like, when I look at, several of the things that the professional critics really go into about it, is the fact that this is, yeah, targeting Latinos in this, yeah, at this exact time in how America treats Latinos, and the, yeah, that's one of the, and like, if it, yeah, that's something I would like to see user reviews actually go into, if they genuinely feel like they have an argument to make against the critics, because that's the interesting thing to, you know it would have been so easy to make this movie about another group of people, a group of people. I mean, seriously, why don't they just go the whole, just take the last couple of steps and make the Latinos transgender gay Muslims as well. Just like, you know, why how can you live with yourself while attacking the most powerless people? People getting deported for no good reason, children getting separated from parents, and then you go and make a movie where the bad guys are like every single Latino character in this is a negative, like, it's, and yeah, there is a difference between, what, at the very least, like, the actually, yeah, I guess, I'm not thinking about it. I guess I'm not entirely sure there is a single positive Vietnamese character in the second one. I guess the closest would be the female agent, and again, she's just an object. I guess. Yeah, I mean, at the very least, when they made the third movie, again, in hindsight, it's really troubling, but clearly they were trying to convey that there are, yeah, the fourth movie as well. Excuse me. In the third movie, the Afghan people. In the fourth movie, the Burmese rebels as well as civilians. And they're like, yeah, you know what, they're real people, but you know, you know, sure, some of them are bad, but others are good. And actually, I guess I'm not entirely sure there's a single native Afghan character. Are they all Russians in the third? The bad guys, I mean. Anyway, the let's see. Yeah, it just it would not have been very difficult to change, and yeah, it's incredibly gross to make this exact kind of thing. And it's so frustrating because it would be so easy to make it so much better. It has promise past. Anyway. Yeah, see, this guy's, the last 10 minutes are awesome, brutal and bloody, just how we like it. It gave it a 3 out of 10. Everything else is just horrible, boring, and lacking any interesting action or plot beats to keep you engaged. I wouldn't go that far, but that is what I really, excuse me. I mean, it's not impossible. Of course, the movie's only going to go absolutely insane at the end. You can't have the movie being as crazy from the start as it is at the very end. But the movie Commando, 1985, it has a good amount of action from start to finish. There's some incredible action right at the very start of that movie. It's not only the climax that has great action, and the plot moves nicely along in it. You know, and I mean, yeah, the second movie does have some good tension. I feel like the third one as well. I mean, they're really the way they can make it work is when there is a war zone. In the first one, the war zone only really comes about because they refuse to let Rambo go. They when he rushes away from the police station. But yeah, movies 2, 3, and 4, there's always a war zone. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the fourth movie, Rambo is not getting involved. But we keep seeing the Karen rebels and civilians being abused, and that keeps us engaged. Basically every time we see that, it makes us worry for the safety of Julie Benz and the others. You know, so it's not. I'm not gonna claim. It's definitely exploitative, but it's not boring. You know, the which yeah, parts of this movie can come off as kind of boring, and it definitely doesn't have quite enough plot to. You could easily, yeah. Anyway, I mean, I feel like the early scenes, like we didn't really need to see her with her friends at the party because we barely learn anything new about her there. You know, I like the scenes where she's talking to Stallone. That's I'm not sure I'd remove any of that, but we didn't need to see her, with the party down in the tunnels and the and Maria talking to Rambo is also good. Excuse me. Now, yeah, this guy gave it a 2 out of 10, and I'm sorry, I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but it's the it's that meme writing thing of where the I think it's a SpongeBob meme where like you're repeating something someone else said, but in a mocking way. And the thing that's being repeated is, don't listen to the critics, guys. Film critics went. That's the entire bit from me. Film critics went to this movie to watch a movie, not to validate their worship of a character who has been complete garbage since the second film of the series. At best, any movie in the series after First Blood, including this one, is a dumb, brainless, splashy meat fest. At worst, Last Blood is a weird, violent fantasy for they turker gerbs crowd. Save your money and spend them on Stallone projects that are actually worth something, like Blu-rays of the Rocky and Creed films. So yeah, I haven't watched Rocky past the fifth movie, but I hear great things about the newer movies. Yeah, let me one more time. They turker gerbers yeah, something like that. Did a good job of writing it out. And sorry, this guy, I have no, I don't know his sexual preferences, nor am I going to judge them. Excuse me. This guy gave it a 2. That's why it came out as gay. That's why it came out as gay, because the gay guy gave it a 2. Excuse me. All they had to do was pull off another Rambo 4. Literally the bare minimum thing to do. But they couldn't even manage that. Terrible pacing, CGI that might actually be worse than 4's. Some of the time, yeah. Completely meaningless characters outside of Rambo himself, and a finale and ending that feels rushed and dissatisfying when compared to the previous entries. Not to mention the trailers spoiled all the good parts straight up. Yeah, kind of, yeah. I don't agree with everything he says, but again, at least it's a. Anyway, okay, yeah, so I'm just briefly gonna. Okay, so this guy gave me 9 out of 10. Okay, yeah, I think, solid action picture. The pacing is more akin to a 1970s revenge flick. The first two acts of the film are essentially a setup for the final one. This is not a wall-to-wall action picture. I think that might be, yeah, that makes sense. However, the final act is jaw-dropping. Patience is required, but it is rewarded many times over. I don't know that I would necessarily say that. Honestly, I would have really liked if the movie kept, like, when it doesn't have a lot of violence. I really enjoyed the character stuff where Rambo is this man who does not want to get back into these awful things. I found that much more compelling. Certainly as Rod Hilton's abridged script puts it about the fourth movie, 30-minute cartoon tacked on at the end is enjoyable. I do. I still greatly prefer the character stuff. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, he goes on to say something that I already argued against this earlier, so it really is. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just briefly going to say he says that it's disingenuous. I guess he doesn't care that Latinos are being brutalized, and he assumes that nobody else cares either. Critics, they're just whining. Who cares that people are having their lives ruined? Who cares that children are being traumatized for their lives? Who cares that people are dying because the Trump administration and their people don't want to bother treating them with a bare minimum of human. Who cares? They might as well be Russians or, Russian or Irish mob is literally what he says. Bad guys are bad guys. And stupid guys write things like that in reviews. Let's see. I'm not, you know what? I'm not in, I don't think that something, that is offensively stupid, but I don't think that he should necessarily be forced to rewrite the review or something. He has a right to his opinion. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I were running that site, I would maybe make it so that anyone who writes something that completely detached from reality should be forced to watch some completely unbiased reporting about how bad Latinos have it under Trump. I just think that, just look at how many people died in Puerto Rico while Trump calls them lazy and refuses to help. Just now, let's see. And this guy gave it a 2 out of 10. As a huge fan of First Blood and Rambo, this was horrible. Nothing about this movie reminds you of the first two. It's Home Alone with gore. Now, if you want Home Alone with gore, it's a 10. If you want Rambo, it's a 2. I quite appreciated that. Yeah. Now, on to IMDb. Let's see. Right. That actually does cover. And yeah, reaching Wikipedia. I guess that is, yeah. And yeah. Okay, so Let's see. Do I have anything in closing? 3 hours, not bad. Let me think. Yeah, just I really, really I wish that more of this movie was the really good stuff. I don't mind that it doesn't have a lot of action, and I kind of prefer the parts that don't have action, although some of the action is very entertaining. But it is definitely inexcusable that the bad guys are Latinos. I really don't think. I mean, I haven't heard, but I guess I wouldn't be surprised if Stallone was a Trump supporter. He has expressed some like ridiculously extreme right wing views in the past, and he James Cameron said of the second Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Yeah, no. James Cameron said, "I wrote the action. Stallone wrote the politics. He's responsible for the politics in that script." So, and there have been other, I don't, some of the things that, yeah, I guess let me just briefly, in closing, let me think. What I wanted to say was, yeah, it's inexcusable to have a movie. I don't think there's really any question that this movie is going to make at least some people more hostile towards Latinos, because they're gonna look at Latino men and they're gonna see Miguel and hear, oh, they don't even care about their own family. They're gonna look at Latina, you know, young and old, and they're gonna see the painfully naive Gabriella, or the you know or Maria, incapable of controlling her family, or younger family members, and just, yeah. I guess I don't know. Maybe it will lead to more of a more like, maybe ultimately some people will watch this and then be confronted with real world Latinx, how bad things are for Latinx today in America, and they'll start to question some of these narratives. But I mean, the thing that when 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 people started making movies, one of the oldest movies made is, they filmed. They used a camera to film a train coming directly at the camera, and people ran out of the theater because, excuse me, they thought that the train was actually coming through the screen. Obviously, today people have, you know, you learn it as a child. Most people do today. That the fact that you see something on the screen doesn't mean that it is actually, it's not behind the screen. It's being projected. Excuse me. However, at the end of the day, one of the strengths of live action films, not still pictures, not animated, but live action film, is that to some extent, it does trick the eye and the mind into believing that what we're seeing is to some extent a representation of reality. Maybe it's been staged because they didn't film it when it originally happened, but it was exciting, so they redid it in front of a camera. Or maybe it's, maybe they weren't able to film the yeah, you know, it's not real and it's not happening right now, but it's somewhat representative of reality. And because of that, when people see story after story where Latinos, where Latinx are villains or victims of the like, they start to believe that that's how it really is. Also, in part because a lot of them are gonna spend more time with fiction about Latinx than actually interacting with real life ones and real life Latinx. And a lot of them, if they think based on something they've seen or heard about that Latinx are either dangers or victims, then they're more likely to try to avoid Latinx in, in the real world. And then, without them even realizing it, very frequently, if you can choose to spend time with, you know, yeah, if you get to choose, not everybody gets to choose, but if you're in a position where you can choose whether to spend time with the family who's white like you are, one of the black families, one of the, Latinx families, etc., and you consistently choose, yeah, let's say you consistently choose not to spend time with the Latinx family, then when you look at the various families that you have the option to spend time with, well, I know this white family, and I even know this black family, but I still don't know that Latinx family. And they're not going to stop and think, oh, well, of course I don't know them. I don't spend time with them. They haven't, they haven't had a chance to make a positive impression on me. I know nothing about them. So if I'm thinking something negative about them, it's not specific to them. It's because I have, preconceptions about them in my head that have nothing to do with this particular group of them. No, instead, they're just going to look at them and they're going to say, they're just like I've been told in the media. And when that happens with, you know, tons of people, tons of white people who all hate Latinx families, then suddenly, they start, what's it called? They they kind of back up each other. When one of them says, you really can't trust Latinx, others are going to say, yeah, I don't trust them either. Instead of, yeah, instead of some of them going, and some of them will. Some will go and say, no, that's not true. I know some of them personally. They're great people. But if the majority, or certainly if a lot, are only the ones where they have a negative perception of Latinx, then that leads to less safe conditions for them, especially when a lot of people, they hear what Trump say about Latinos and they don't think about it. They just take it to heart. And I mean, think about it. If you as someone who realized that obviously we shouldn't attack, random Latinos, I still say violence is only ever okay when it's preventing greater violence. you know, if you're defending yourself or someone else who needs defending, then it's okay to use violence, but it's never okay to use more violence than the other guy. But to a lot of people, it will seem like self-defense if they see a Latino man and think, he's a rapist. President Trump said so. and I don't know any Latinos who aren't rapists, so they must be rapists. And suddenly they're attacking, and it's oh, but it's a pre what's it called preemptive strike. I'm just if I don't attack him now, he's gonna start raping women the moment I turn my back, and that's how this sort of thing happens. And yeah, this movie is going to cause more violence. I really wish that it wasn't, but I mean, short of like, there, yeah, the as long as it's popular with the people who believe that sort of thing about Latinos, yeah, it's I really I gotta say it's genuinely I don't know if it is what the filmmakers intended, but frankly I could absolutely imagine, yeah, it just premiered. Give it a few days, I could imagine that Trump will be tweeting about how this movie proves him exactly right, or ooh, finally these guys really understand what I'm saying, or something like that, and just yeah. Hopefully, in the long run, when Trump is no longer in office and everyone who supported him is terribly ashamed that they did, and like once progressives are able to undo a lot of the damage Trump does, by then this will seem a, like a dumb joke. This will be the yeah. I don't know what's a good example, but yeah. Anyway, I yes, that is everything I want to say. So I hope you enjoyed watching, as I enjoyed watching and recording, and I'll catch you next time.